Story of a Wildman I centered my trip on fishing, some Budweiser to wash it down and a plan to camp out for 2 nights. My idea for a camping trip is quite simple, but simple is not the right word for what I encountered on my trip. I should have known something was off, you know. That something were in these woods because not long before I started trekking to my campsite near Red River did I notice a poster that was nailed into a park sign. The poster showed a man, his wife and their teenage daughter smiling and standing together in front of this exact same park sign. At the bottom of the poster was a date of 6 months earlier, and so I knew this family went missing quite a while ago, and as I walked on forward to my campsite I said a little prayer to myself in hopes that they had been found. Once I had my tent, fireplace and pissing hole established I did my fishing, only caught 3 catfish but I only planned to stay 2 nights so it was more than enough to get me through. After fishing the sky was starting to set and night was nearing so I decided to tie some wire to the trees around my camp as a sort of perimeter, not electric or nothing but enough to tangle and scare anything that tried passing through. I ate some fish over fire, watched the stars, I felt the fire warm my face while a breeze of air pecked at my neck and for a man in the middle of nothing and nowhere I felt a peace like no other. Before I laid down to call it a night I made use of my pissing hole, then got in my tent, zipped it up and drunk another beer while nodding off till I eventually fell asleep. I woke up early the next morning like 5 in the morning before sunrise with an intense urge to use my pissing hole. I grabbed my flashlight and went to my hole only to notice all my perimeter wire was no longer on the trees. I told myself it had to be a group of deer or a bear that ran through but my wire wasn't scattered across my camp, it was simply missing. I didn't have any more wire and truly was too tired to do anything other than head back to my tent to sleep and wait till sunrise, so that's what I did. When I opened my eyes that morning I noticed I was wrapping my arm around my camp bag as if I got so drunk I fell asleep cuddling my backpack. That's when it hit me that I have a gray-colored backpack, not a candy red-colored backpack. I lifted the covers off of me to see the bare ass of a man wearing nothing but a candy red hoodie with the hood up over his head and laying in a spoon position. That's when I did what any man would do and started choking the guy and punching him in his rib cage, his eyes looking like they were gonna pop out of his head and blood gushing out of his nose from the blows I landed into it. Whoever this guy was didn't matter, I got the upper hand and wasn't letting go. I drove fist and elbow into his face, his teeth began popping out and down into his throat causing him to choke, his blood poured out the corner of his mouth. The man slung his hand into the pocket of his hoodie, almost breaking his own wrist, pulled out some type of remote control, and before I could try to disarm him he hit a button and a volt of electricity hit me right in the neck, causing me to jump out of pain and bringing the tent down on top of us. I could hear him rustling inside the other half of the fallen tent, inching his way closer and closer to me, and he was screaming, "Dog calla, dog calla." I felt a wet hand grab my ankle so I pulled my foot away with all the strength in my body, but instead of loosing his grip I drug him full force over top of me, pinning my own knees into my stomach while he tried to punch and bite me through the tent. I could see his nose further breaking against the fabric and his teeth trying to pierce through the single layer of tent that kept our faces from touching. I felt around for anything I could get my hands on to use as a weapon till I felt something cylinder to my right side. I picked it up, it was my flashlight. I aimed it at his face and turned it on to blind him, hoping it would scare him back and push the weight off my knees before they break. Instead, it made him push even further forward as he let out animalistic noises while excessively pushing the shock button on the dog collar. Me and this a man, if that's what you want to call him, were in this tussle for what felt like multiple hours. He wasn't letting up and I wasn't gonna die in some forest with my last drink being a Budweiser, so I grabbed him by the cheek of his mouth to stabilize his head as I let off 2 crushing jabs with the flashlight, begging God to give me the power to knock him out. He managed to bite through the layer of tent and down onto my finger. He stuck my whole thumb in his mouth and began to grind his teeth together, sawing through my bone. Even with the amount of pain shooting up my arm, I remembered the knife I used to cut and tie the perimeter wire was in my right pocket. I dug my right hand freakishly into my pocket to retrieve the knife. I had to use the one hand to pull the blade out the guard while the maniac was finishing up severing my left thumb. I stuck him right in the scalp. No more animalistic screams, no more pain, no more wondering what happened to that family, just a thankfulness to be alive and a dead weight laying on top of me. On my way back to the ranger station to seek aid and help, I passed by that park sign with the poster of the family on it. I stopped and bowed my head in a moment of silence. I raised my head to see the daughter had a candy red hoodie and her dad looked like the man I had just killed.